with Latin. I am the creator of a classroom that teaches beginner Latin, and today's verb seminar is on the first conjugation. I'm going to go over the explanation of verbs, principal parts of verbs, the present tense of laudo, the imperfect tense of laudere, the future tense of laudere, and the Jam with Latin verb chart that I created to help you see the parts of verbs in the present tense. Now, I'm always available at jamwithlatin@gmail.com for questions, or you can check out the classroom at jamwithlatin.com. Now let's get started on those verbs. Verbs in Latin change forms like nouns, and this is called conjugating. Latin verbs change their forms to express different times. This is called a verb tense, and we use these in English every day. The boy is jumping. This is the present tense. The boy jumped. This is the past tense. And the boy shall jump. This is the future tense. So let's see how they work in Latin. The most important thing are the building blocks of the verbs, and they are called the four principal parts. And every verb has four principal parts. The word principal comes from the Latin word principalis, which means first or original. The first principal part is called the present indicative active, laudo. Now, laudo is only used as the first person singular in the present tense and means I praise. Present means it is happening now. Indicative means it makes a statement. Active means the subject is doing the action in the sentence. The second principal part is called the present infinitive active, laudere. It means to praise. An infinitive verb definition is just to plus a verb. It is not often used in a sentence. This form is used to tell what conjugation a verb is in. So, how does it tell what conjugation the verb is in? You look at the second principal part, and the last three letters will help you know, or will actually tell you, what conjugation a verb is in. And we'll look at that in a minute. The third principal part is the perfect indicative active, laudavi, I have praised. Perfect is used when writing about a completed action, which means a past tense verb. So it's a verb plus ed. And sometimes you'll use the helping verbs have, had, or will. The fourth principal part is not used for a while, but you should put it on your vocabulary flashcards. It's called perfect passive participle, laudatus. It is the only one that has the word passive in it. It means I will be praised. So passive means something is being done to the subject of the sentence. That's all you need to know about the fourth principal part right now. You'll get back to it later. Let's see all four conjugations and all four principal parts. So here's our principal part chart. Down the left side are the four conjugations. Now, if you're using the Henley textbook, it will take you a few chapters to go through all four conjugations. But you're going to start with laudo. And then second principal part, laudere, means to praise. Laudavi, the third principal part, and laudatus, the fourth principal part. Now look at that laudere, the second principal part. It is the stem, the building block of almost all your verbs. You can see it in the third principal part, lauda, and the fourth principal part, lauda again. So besides telling us what conjugation a verb is in, the second principal part is the main stem of most verbs. Now the second conjugation, moneo. Second principal part, monere, which means to advise, monui, and montus. Now in this verb, the second conjugation, the second principal part is monere macron. Now in its third and fourth principal part, it only used the mon as the stem, and the endings change. And that's why you have to memorize your vocabulary. Things change. In the third conjugation is what I call the ugly third stepsister of Cinderella. And that's because it doesn't follow any of the other rules at all. It starts off with mitto, and then it turns to mittere, to send. And then it turns to misi and misus. What? I don't know why. Just know that the third conjugation always follows its own rules, so it's very important to memorize all your vocabulary and all four principal parts. The fourth conjugation, audio, goes back to following the rules. Audio, audiri, to hear, audivi, and auditus. And you can see the stem of A-U-D-I, macron, in the third and fourth principal part, taken from your second principal part. All four conjugations are in the Henley Grammar Book at 159, which is page 43. So if you're not part of the Jam with Latin classroom, you can always find these in the Henley Grammar Book. Now, here are our four principal parts again. Laudat is used as the stem in the first conjugation. The first principal part, like laudo, of all conjugations, is the first word in the present tense, and that is all it's good for. So, from laudo, you add the present standard endings to the rest of the stem. So, what are your standard verb endings? Well, I teach my class that o or m, st, must, tis, int are your standard verb endings. You will see these every day that you use Latin, so make sure you memorize it. O or m, st, must, tis, int. Now, to that, we have our first principal part, laudo. So, in the first conjugation, we're not using the m ending, only the o, and the first principal part is laudo. From there, I add the stem of the conjugation, which is lauda. See? Now I have all my verb conjugations. Laudo, laudas, laudat, laudamus, laudatis, laudant. Now, why are some of those A's green? Well, the green ones are the ones that have the macron, and the black ones don't have the macron. And that is the standard pattern for macrons in conjugations. The third person, singular and plural, usually do not have a macron over the vowel next to the stem and next to the ending. All right, so let's see more about the verb endings. That O ending will always mean I, and it will always mean first person. The S ending will always mean you and second person. T will always mean he, she, or it, third person. Must will always mean we, first person. Tis will always mean you, second person. And NT always means they. So these verb endings show us our pronoun, our English pronoun used, the person used, and this verb ending also shows us the number, singular on top and plural on the bottom. So no matter what, you will always know O or M, ST, must, is, int means I, you, he, she, it, we, you, they. And that is how I practice them every day. After I practice my verb endings, I make flashcards of all of my verbs. Yes, I make flashcards of all of my verbs. I have dyslexia, and I take my time and I make flashcards. And the reason is the more you write out verb endings, the more the patterns will stick in your head. So this is what my verb flashcard looks like. Now, on the bottom, it says present. It means present tense, and I have the English helping verbs that can be used in the present tense, am, are, is. So, laudo can mean I praise or I am praising. Laudas, you praise or you are praising. Laudat, he, she, it praises or he is praising. Laudamus, we praise or we are praising. Laudatis, you praise or you are praising. And laudant, they praise or they are praising. When you add a helping verb plus ing, it's called a continuous verb. And yes, your one Latin verb can translate into 2 or 3 different phrases, and that's okay. All right, let's move on. Here's the vocabulary from page 103. And the reason I list this is because Henley does not give you the 4 verb principal parts on this page. He just gives you laudo and suspects that you would know that laudare, laudavi, and laudatus are part of it. But you might not. I didn't know when I first started out, so I have them here. Laudo, laudare, laudavi, laudatus. Then occupo, occupare, occupavi, occupatus, which means seize or conquer. Now you say, Alexis, why didn't you put 2 seize or conquer? Well, the reason is because only occupare means to seize or to occupy. Occupo means I seize, and occupavi means I seized, past tense. Okay? So that is why I don't have to next to my translation. Opugno, opugnare, opugnavi, and opugnatus, attack or assault. Now, if you have trouble memorizing this word, because I always get it confused with occupo, I think punching. When you're punching somebody, you're assaulting somebody, you're attacking them. So opugno, attack. Opugno, assault, because pug sounds like punch to me. Let's go on. Oro, orare, orawi, oratus. Pray. Paro, parare, parawi, paratus. Prepare or get ready. And you can see the pattern that I built with my red endings. Every verb in the first conjugation will have the first principal part end in O, second principal part are, third principal part avi, and fourth principal part atus. Now, if you have trouble conjugating a verb, you can Google it by typing into Google Latin verb conjugation of, and if you know like laudo, the first principal part of any verb, and you put it in there, it will come up and it will help you conjugate the verb. Now, I'm moving on. That was all the present tense. We're moving on to the imperfect indicative active of laudo, laudare, laudavi, and laudatus. Now, the imperfect tense shows action that happened in the past. I was picking flowers. So, why didn't they just call it past tense? Don't ask me. This language has been around for thousands of years. All I know is this one's called the imperfect tense. And how I think about it is, I'm not sure what time something ended. And because I don't have all the information, it's imperfect. Got it? So I was picking flowers. What time was I picking flowers? I don't know. I lost track of time. And so it's imperfect. Now, how do we build the imperfect tense? We take the stem from the second principal part, lauda, and we add to it ba. And then we add to that the standard verb endings that I already showed you. Another thing about the imperfect tense, when you translate it to English, it will always translate to was ... ing. So I was picking. So it's was plus a verb in an ing ending. Got it? Great. So I'm going to show you how to build the imperfect tense with the rule. To create an imperfect tense, we're going to drop the re from the second principal part, laudare, and we're going to add ba, and then we're going to add mst, mustisn't. And this means to praise. Laudare, to praise. And laudare is the present infinitive active, and it's where we get our stem from. So here's our stem, lauda, and the ending, laudabam. I was praising. Lauda, bas. You were praising. Laudabat, he, she, it was praising. Laudabamus, we were praising. Laudabatis, you were praising. Laudabant, they were praising. You see your standard verb endings, mst, must, is, and they're still there. The only thing you added to the stem and the verb ending was that ba. And that's how you know it's in the imperfect indicative active tense. The ba tells you. It's right there. All right, now we're going to move on to the future indicative active. So the future tense of a verb shows an action will take place. Lauda plus bi. So imperfect tense was ba. Future tense is bi plus those standard verb endings again. Here we go. In our future tense, we have the same stem all the way down the chart, just like we did before. And it comes from our second principal part. And to that stem, I'm adding a ba. Wait, that's bo. Why? I don't know. I can't tell you that. But it's laudabo in the first person singular, I shall praise. But from there, you're going to have bi. Laudabis, you will praise. Laudabit, he, she, it will praise. Laudabimus, we shall praise. Laudabitis, you will praise. And laudabunt, they will praise. Okay, this is what the back of my complete verb flashcard for the present system looks like. And the present system is the present, imperfect, and future tense all together. And by writing it out, I helped myself memorize the patterns of Latin. Now what I'm going to do is explain the verb dare, to give. We learned in Henley dedit. He, she, it gave. This is present tense perfect verb, which means the action has been completed in the past. And Henley gave us this word just so we could write sentences, right? He, she, it gave. We use this a lot in the beginning of the textbook. But laudare is a similar verb to dedit, but I couldn't figure where dedit came from. So I had to do some investigating into laudare, which we know is the present indicative active. So the present tense first principal part of dedit is actually do. The second principal part is dare. The third principal part is dedi. That's where dedit came from. And then datus, which is the fourth principal part, and we'll learn later. So dare is a first conjugation verb. The exception is that the second principal part does not have a long A in the ending. So dare, it doesn't have a macron, but it's still part of the first conjugation verbs. So here's the conjugation of dare, to give. Do, das, dat, damus, datis, dant. Hey, standard verb endings, and it's being conjugated just like laudare. So it will conjugate like laudare in the imperfect and the future tense as well. Same verb endings. Now here's a little puzzle piece. Only the A in the second person singular, das, is long. Why is that? I don't know. That's just how it is. Sometimes there's rules in Latin we just have to memorize. All right, here's something cool. I'm going to parse a sentence for you. Centurio or centurio principis in hiberna vocabit. Now, it's centurio because in classical Latin, the C is hard, and it's always hard, no matter what. Now, here we have our Chart A from the Jam with Latin classroom. I teach all my students how to use Chart A because when you parse a sentence, you will know the individual pieces of each and every word, which then will help you understand how they work. So, centurio is nominative. Here's a little tip. If you're using the Henley textbook, he always puts the first word as the nominative subject if he has a subject in the sentence. It will be the first word. So, no matter what, if it has a nominative, it will be first. Centurio is nominative, singular, that's the number. The gender is masculine, and the declension is third declension, and it means the centurion, singular. The second word, principes, the es ending shows me this is accusative. It is plural masculine of the third declension, and it means the chief or leading man. It's always fine to put both translations in your box, because both will be right when you rewrite your sentence. In. We know in is a preposition. It does not have a number, gender, or declension, so don't fill that in. But it means in or on, but sometimes it can mean into. So how do I know which one is going to be used in our sentence? Well, the key is the next word in the parsing chart, hiberna. Hiberna has an A ending. The A ending is second declension, neuter, and plural in the accusative. And when a preposition is followed by an accusative noun, it means that the sentence is showing movement. And so we're going to translate with into instead of in. The last One is our verb, vocabit. The bit shows us it's the future indicative active verb. It shows us it's singular with that T ending. It shows us it's third person with the T ending. And then the A right before the BI shows me its first conjugation. And I have memorized that it means he will call, or he, she, it will call. But I figured since this sentence was about centurion, I wrote he. Okay, so a rule. Lesson 9, section 3 is a verb ending must match the noun it is supporting in person and number. So if you look back on my chart, vocabit is our verb, it's singular. Centurio is also singular. So they match, they are following the verb rule, and we're good to go. So the centurion will call the chief into the winter quarters. All right? That's how easy parsing makes translating your sentences. Now, here is my Jam with Latin chart, just so you can see the pattern of the verb endings, because this is the key to Latin, the patterns. And the first conjugation, all use the stem from the second principal part, are, and then you add our standard verb endings, ost, must, is, int, bombas, bot, bombus, batis, bont, bo, bis, bit, bimis, bitis, boot. Now, if you're in lesson 10, you're going to have the second conjugation. But look at the endings. They are exactly the same as the first conjugation. The only thing that changes is the stem of the verb. Now, I told you before, this third conjugation likes to follow its own rules, and I call it the ugly stepsister from Cinderella. And that is because it cannot make up its mind what vowel it's going to use. So in the present tense, the third conjugation drops the ERE and turns to an I. And then in the imperfect tense, it drops the I and goes to an E macron. And then in the future tense, it drops the endings all together, except for it keeps its standard verb endings of MST, must, is, ent, and comes up with its own ending of ace, et, amus, atis, ent. Funny, huh? That third conjugation. You got to keep an eye out for it. Finally, we have our fourth conjugation. It goes back to following the rules, except for when you get to the future tense, when it wants to be like the third conjugation and adds the ace, et, amus, atis, ent. Well, that's it for today. Jam with Latin will be on sale in May. If you have any questions, don't forget, you can email me.